That's discussed with you in the Josephus material you've been reading. Discussed for you. Who's the Roman general who storms the temple? Pompey. Hopefully we'll get that far today and you'll be able to use it as a stop-off point for our exam. Pompey. And who's Pompey? Caesar's associate, erstwhile a colleague. Later they fight a civil war against each other. That's what the people who assassinate Caesar have against Caesar, because he defeats Pompey. Pompey is in the east, conquering countries in the east. Asia Minor, Syria, finally Palestine, Egypt. He gets killed later on in Egypt when someone takes his head to Caesar, and Caesar's very upset by that. If you read your Roman history. Anyway, that's in the 60s BC down to the 40s BC. So if you want to plug here, when is Caesar assassinated? Easy dates. 44 BC. 44 BC. These are easy dates because of the double numbers. Like Alexander, 333 BC. Augustus, Octavian, takes over in the war against Mark Antony, all covered in Hollywood movies with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton and all the fancy dudes from the 50s and 60s. Useless history, but at least it acquainted people with this period. In any case, that's around 33 BC. I think the Battle of Actium is actually 31 BC, maybe. But anyway, Octavius. You've heard of Octavius, right? I always wonder what you know, what you don't know. Can't mention it over and over again, but anyway, he becomes Augustus. I told you that once or twice. I'll tell you the third time, probably sink in. Who is Octavius? Originally just a little sort of upstart boy. He's Caesar's nephew or grandnephew. I can't remember which. Anyway, he's adopted by Caesar, supposedly, he claims, that Caesar adopted him before he was killed. Whether he was adopted or not, I don't know, but he claims that he was, and then he used that to fight Antony, who was Caesar's main lieutenant general and so on. That series in HBO last year, Rome, did all this. Octavius was a big star of that series, and he was extremely good. If you go on HBO Choice, you can get those episodes. They're really good. The first year. The second year is awful. The first year is really good. How many have seen the first year again of Rome? I've asked you before. Really good. And Octavius particularly is good in it. He's a little snot-nosed boy, isn't he? But he's really good at it. Very good. He's the same actor who played in a few other recently good movies. That movie about the ships that were fighting in the Pacific Ocean, the English and the Spaniards, I forget, it was done by an Australian director. Extremely good movie about sea warfare, but it bombed because it was too serious for numbskull audiences that go to the movies here in our shopping malls. But really a good movie. Do you remember the name of that movie? They were going to make a whole series, and then they didn't bother. He was one of the cabin boys in that movie. No one knows that movie. It was with who's the Australian guy who was in L.A. Confidential? Huh? What? Crowe? Yeah, Russell Crowe. Yeah, Master and Commander.
Oh, yeah.
Master and Commander. How many saw Master and Commander? That boy was in it. The boy that played Augustus. Master and Commander was actually a really fine movie. But it ain't going to go anywhere. Most of the world we live in. Okay, so to come back here, Sadducees come also from Sadok or from Sadiq. It could be either way. Don't forget that's, how do we get Sadducee? Through the Greek. The New Testament and Josephus are written in Greek. The New Testament probably gets it from Josephus. So did they know it themselves? No, I don't think they knew much. And I think they got most of their historical data from Josephus. Maybe, I mean, you won't find anything about a Sadducee in Paul's letters or anything like that. Now, he doesn't know. He doesn't speak about Sadducees. He speaks about Pharisees. Doesn't speak about Sadducees. So anyway, what would Maccabees 1 be then, in terms of these party groups that are appearing here? Probably a Sadducee book, but not a Sadducee book of the kind you would be familiar with from reading the New Testament, because it's a resistance Sadducee book. It's a heroic Sadducee book. It's a, I would call, I don't have a word, righteous Sadducee book, if you think of the Maccabees as righteous priests. Again, to go back to the Jesus thing, a priesthood after the order of Melchizedek. For Christianity, Jesus is king, right? And also high priest. He's a righteous high priest and he's king. That's what Hebrews is saying. He has a dual role. Well, if you're reading Maccabees 1, Jonathan gets appointment from the Seleucids as what? King. And he's also high priest. So there you have the dual role right there. Presaging Jesus. Presaging means to look forward to. So, do I think Jesus was this? No, I mean, I don't think that we have enough historical data about Jesus to say very much at all about what he was or what he wasn't. I know the documents trying to present him like that, fair enough, but I can't answer, did he occupy that role or not? I'm not even sure the parameters of his existence, quite frankly. I know you are, but I'm not, because of serious issues in terms of distinguishing between literature and history, between God men and normal men, between supernatural beings and non-supernatural beings. These are very difficult questions. And so once you're presenting a supernatural being who can do all kinds of supernatural things, you're in the realm of literature. You say, no, you're in the realm of salvation. Okay, fine. You say, well, what do you mean? Well, maybe the Greeks didn't have a god that represented salvation before, so this is a new deity for the Greco-Roman Hellenistic world. The Greeks and the Romans had goddess of wisdom, Athena. They had goddess of light and understanding, Apollo, and so on and so forth. They had Diana with her significances, Zeus with his significance. But they didn't have one to represent salvation before. And you can say, my Jesus is salvation, or your Jesus is salvation. Yes, he's supposed to be. You know why? The name Jesus in Hebrew is Yeshua, which is salvation. That's actually his name as well as what he represents. So there are all these aspects to the Jesus problem that are beyond the scope of our class here. Would be an historical Jesus class, but